So, welcome back to another podcast with me, Mac, and with Jake. We're just after watching the Malaysian Grand Prix. I have a big smile on my face because Jake knows that big pink T-shirt is coming. So, what did you think of the race, Jake?
I was on my. Well, I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited, all right, and I thought I'm going to jinx him. I will jinx him sure as hell. I didn't watch the race. I couldn't. I had a heart attack. So I waited till it was over, and then went on my MotoGP.com, and then I watched it. I actually saw the. I went in, saw the results, and was like, yes. And then I do
So
it.
what you're telling the whole world is that you're a chicken shit.
Yeah. I guess
so. Just to let people know, myself and Jake were obviously talking the whole weekend before this, and Jake said he felt it in his waters that
whatever the hell that means.
It means something else, doesn't it, Jake? But
yeah,
Jake had the feeling that Pecco was going to crash, and I told him relax many times, that he's got this. But yeah, look, I thought compare the race to Australia, it wasn't as exciting in my view, but it was a really good race in the fact that I think Pecco has answered a couple of questions to people now about survival races and being able to deal with pressure.
That's why I thought he was going to go down, for the fact that I was going to watch it. I saw Moto 3, and as soon as I saw mixed conditions, because if you look at Pecco's record, that's when he crashed during mixed conditions. I think every single one of us crashed, or most of them at least, are under mixed conditions. So I was like, oh, he's done. I can't watch this. So I turned it off and watched it later.
Well, look, I think with Pecco, I think he's answered a lot of questions for people now in the way of that. But one of the things I've really noticed about it, especially with Bastianini, is when, say, in Le Mans, when Bastianini went away from him and pulled a small bit of gap within the first couple of corners, Pecco crashed chasing.
Yep.
However, what I've noticed, look, if you go back to Misano, do you know what I mean? What was the race that Bastianini then bettered him? Do you know what I mean? When the two of them were arguing on the track or fighting in close combat, it didn't matter if Bastianini went past Pecco. Do you know what I mean? He didn't worry, or do you know what I mean? He was able to push the bike. It's when someone passes him and puts an immediate gap, or when he's chasing him. So if he's in arm-to-arm combat or bike-to-bike combat with
that's because he has someone, a habit. Go ahead. Sorry,
but I just think that he doesn't get as excited as when he's starting to close in on someone, and then it's lapse of concentration, and then he makes the mistake. Whereas when he is fighting, handlebar to handlebar with someone, he's much better than trying to think. And I suppose that we need to talk about what happened with Bastianini. I'm sure there is a Bastianini-sized mural put on the wall of where he was hung up after the race for being a bowled boy, and like the dead man outlines. I think there's definitely one of them there.
What a bonehead!
It was a bit OTT, all right, for myself. I just thought, does he have the pace or does he not have the pace to put him in, or is he trying to make a point, or is he not trying to make a point? But I just think it was a very, very silly thing to do, because can you imagine the ramifications?
Oh my God! No, Jesus! I mean, that's millions of dollars down the tubes. And he almost crashed when he passed Pecco. Immediately after the next corner, he lost the front end and did a Marquez save, pop it back up again.
The last lap into I think it was turn 9, he nearly hit the back of Pecco.
Oh yeah,
and you're just like, come on,
Yeah.
Okay, even if we all agree or disagree on team orders, at that stage,
Yeah.
he's definitely making a point that I could pass you whenever I want to. And I'm like, in my own mind, he doesn't need to play those mental head games, and he just doesn't, right? Because he's done it enough this year that Pecco knows that he's fast enough.
Yeah. I don't think he's thinking about it. I'm sorry, MotoGP riders aren't rocket scientists. He's out there, it's like a reflex. And he's just going. And then he forgets. It's like a dog chasing a cat. They just forget about it. They what team orders, and they just go. It's like Pecco is that he has a habit. As soon as somebody passes him, he immediately tries to pass him right back. I mean, within 10 feet, he tries to duck under him again.
Yeah. Well, look, that's from Rossi, right? And that's fine. That's where I was saying, like, if someone gets out of that window, then maybe half, 3/4 of a second ahead of him, that's when Pecco crashes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's very rare in wheel-to-wheel combat with someone where they've passed him and he's passed them back or whatever that he makes that mistake. But I just think it's definitely something he's. Ducati don't need it. Do you know what I mean? And they would have looked very, very, very fucking silly today if he took Pecco out. Do you know what I mean?
Oh.
And Fabio won the race. Do you know what I mean? It was a very
Cardassi would have punched him right in the mouth. You know it. The guy who's so excited. Yeah. He'd have belted him right in the teeth.
Oh, he would have. Yeah.
Justifiably so.
But like you could see it, like there was definitely a communication sent to Grassini from Ducati, maybe not in an open source way, but like it's very rare now that you'd see Gigi get off his seat in the middle of a race and go out and have a word with the two boys, and then Chibati came back in to speak to him, and then Gigi went out again. Do you know what I mean? So Gigi went out twice, right? And that you can guarantee now, Bastianini probably either has a sore hole or sore knuckles.
Yeah,
right.
They were pissed. They were up in arms.
Really annoyed. Yeah, they were really, really annoyed. And like, look, you can't blame them. I suppose I don't personally like team orders, but every team is using them. Like,
at this stage, there's only two people that can win the title right now. So why not? Why? Yamaha's doing it too. They put up a pit board that said let Fabio pass to the Yamaha rider.
They sent a team communication on lap 2 to Morbidelli to say 20 is behind you or something, or being followed by number 20 or whatever.
And also, by the way, also with the infighting between Bastianini and Pecco, here comes Quartararo because they're going 2 seconds slower, fighting with one another. Now he didn't have a fiddler's chance in hell to get even close. Now he's starting to catch up.
I think he was a bit sensible too, though. And I have to say, like, I do think this is probably one of Fabio's best races.
He was riding hard.
He was riding hard, but he was riding smart. Like when Bezzecchi was closing in, he didn't up the pace. Do you know what I mean? He knew this is the pace, or this is the max pace I can do to keep this tire alive. Do you know what I mean? So like he knew it in his head, and you could see it with Bezzecchi. Like the commentators are on like, oh, Bezzecchi's coming, Bezzecchi's going to get him, this, that, the other. And yeah, he got into like half a second from him, right? But then you could see Bezzecchi start to fade, and you just like the tire's gone. Like, do you know what I mean? He overworked the rear tire.
And Fabio, when he goes to post-race interviews, you can tell when he explains it that he's actually thinking. It's not like Bastianini. Bastianini, what do we say? They just point at the bike and say, "You will ride the bike." You don't pick tires. You don't do shit. You ride. Fabio is in there talking to the engineers. He's thinking when he's riding, and he's the second fastest rider out there.
But he has no choice. He has to understand that bike because no one can fucking ride it. So he has to talk to the engineers, right? The Ducati lads, most of them, you're right, okay. The engineers would say, this is your best option to go. And they're like, all right, okay, boom. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Fabio was like having to question Yamaha had to say, why is this the best way to go? Why? What is the reason for this? And of course, look, he has years now. He's only ever ridden a Yamaha MotoGP bike as well. Do you know what I mean? So,
but I think that's overrated. Or when people say, "Oh, you're going to go from an inline four to a V4,"
no. What I mean is he knows nothing else, right? So, he knows that Yamaha inside out and back to front. So when the engineer says about something, and if it confuses him or if he feels that it's going to affect his tires, then of course he's going to question. But I just think like how he was very measured and like he was pushing, but the brain was still going slow enough to think about this is what I need to do and this is how I need to do it.
Fabio is like a cross between Rossi and what's the other Italian guy, his teammate. God, I'm having Lorenzo. He's a cross between the two because he acts like Rossi and he's technical like Rossi, but he uses those longer lines, the arcing lines like Lorenzo did. And of course, but nobody passes like Rossi does. I mean, he was the best passer ever. But anyhow.
Yeah. And look, I think like the two of them, like I was at the start, I was just like Pecco got a peach of a start, absolute. Like, and he said it like he's like that was my best start ever on a Ducati, like you know what I mean, ever. And Fabio got a great start as well, like do you know what I mean? Because like Pecco went to second and Fabio went to fifth. Do you know what I mean? Fabio was in 12th place, like do you know what I mean? So it was a really, really good start. Martin, you could see it though with Martin, and again, this is where I was really commend Pecco. Was like Martin pulled like 1.2 seconds from Pecco,
right?
And Pecco said openly after, he's like, Martin was going so fast, he's going to burn out his rear tire. Because he's like, I tried to stay with him for a lap or two, and I could start feeling that I was overheating my rear tire. And he started to pull back. But look, Martin took care of himself then, do you know what I mean? Losing it. In a very strange place, but look, he was fast all weekend. Like his raw pace was really, really good.
But again, he fades at the end of the race. It always seems to be as he's going, it gets a lot of laps under it. And I still think he might still have something screwed up with that wrist and didn't say anything.
I think he needs to start consistently getting to the end of the races for us to solve that problem.
Do you know, just like a boxer. Oh yeah, it's like a boxer. Once you go 6 rounds, then you want to go 8 rounds. Once you go 8, 6 is easy. And then 10, and 12.
Yeah, and I just don't think he's there yet mentally. Do you know what I mean? Like he's had a few bad races now. Well, look, he's had a few good races, but he's had a few bad races where you're looking at him going, I know you have. We have a saying here in Ireland. She looks great till she opens her mouth. Do you know what I mean?
That's international.
And, yeah. And look, that's kind of like he looks fast. On his day, he's brilliant, but there's a lot of off days as well. So you're just like, okay. But look, I think he did quite well. Another person that did well today was Morbidelli. I thought, very, very, very surprised with him.
Me, I want to see it more than once. I still think it was like a one-off.
In fairness, he did it Friday, he did it Saturday, and he
more than one weekend. More than one weekend.
Yeah. Well, look, I think I personally look. I think I just don't think it's enough to save his MotoGP career with Yamaha. We know he's fast. We definitely know he's fast, but
I don't know if he's fast anymore. I mean, but even a blind squirrel gets a nut sometimes. That's my thinking about him.
I would agree with you to a certain point, but today he was fast. I will give that to him. He did a double long lap penalty, and it is a long, long, long penalty there compared to Silverstone.
And everyone's going slow too. I mean, it wasn't a fast race. The pace was low. The mixed conditions.
But he was still able to get back up there. Do you know what I mean? But I guess for me, he was in and around the top 10 where I believe that the factory rider should be. Do you know what I mean? So,
right.
so he was nearly
At
there.
least.
So I have to be nice to him in the way
You
that
are nice.
he was in expected area.
You know, hey,
Marquez,
I'll steal a blind man's cane and poison his dog.
Marquez, I thought did well. He like look, he's. I have to say he does know his body. You know, he said after Australia, I expect to struggle in Sepang with the majority of the right corners. He said the bike was slow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sorry, he said today the bike was slow all weekend.
Right.
But you know, I think every Honda was slow, but I think you could see towards the end, yeah, his tires were burning up, but also I think he was burning up a small bit as well. He just didn't have the energy towards the end. That's what personally looked like to me.
I just think he tore up his tires because all of a sudden his rear kept going out. His rear kept going out. Remember, he kept running wide. And not many people notice this, but maybe it's my imagination. But if you look at the speed of the Honda, it isn't that much more than the Yamaha. I saw when he was running with Fabio.
Yeah,
they turned that. Slow. You know, horsepower is a chassis enemy, handling enemy. So I think the Honda turned the power down to try to get some semblance of order for handling. You know, so it's like get a base point. Okay, we have it handling, but it's down. It's down in power, but at least it's handling better.
Yeah, well, this is the first weekend now that he's running all the updates, right? And with Taka being out, he's also he has spare aluminium swing arms now as well, because they only have 2 or 3 of them, and that's why in the wet races, that's why they actually weren't using, or they were using the carbon ones and not the aluminium ones.
Is that why?
They didn't have enough spare. If
because you remember we
were wondering why you wouldn't use the flexible one.
Yeah,
and it was literally, that's the reason why, because they don't have enough spares of the aluminium one. But no, look, I thought overall he looked good. I think with the Honda, I think you're spot on what you just said there. I think they've dialed back the horsepower because they're completely focused on chassis and aerodynamics. You can see it, like he was running all the updates all weekend this weekend, and he crashed actually. So I'd say there's going to be even more detailed pictures of those out. He crashed in the last corner in FP4 yesterday. With the new bike, but he wasn't able to get that back to the pits, so he had to go back to the pits himself. So I'd say there'd be good close-up pictures of that. But he was running the downward ducts, the aluminium swing arm, and Stegosaurus swings. But he was doing that for majority of this weekend, and he raced it as well.
Just for our members' sake, to explain it, make it simple. When they say horsepower is the enemy of the chassis, I could make the Honda the best handling motorcycle in MotoGP almost overnight. Now it's the worst handling. I can make it the best handling. All you have to do is take off 75 horsepower. 75 horsepower, that bike is going to be sweet. Better than the Suzuki ever was. That's how much horsepower affects handling. Probably even 50. You could probably take 50 off of it. But what are you going to do with a horse when you got down 50 horsepower? You're going to go nowhere. The tougher it is, that's why and Honda used to always take the high road. I had to give them that. And Ducati, where it's so much harder when you have high horsepower and try to get it to handle. That's the trick. You can get one, you can get the other, but to get them both to mesh together, right, that's the art. That's what makes it so hard.
So as we said before, is finding the lady in the street and the freak in the bed. That's the balance that you're looking for. That's the perfect.
I was trying to make it simple for everybody. I didn't know if everybody would pick up the girl and the motorcycle, scenario.
Well, we're hoping so. Most people would have interactions with ladies, maybe not motorbikes always, but
no wokeness here, no transvestites.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah. Look, I think he's doing well. I think. how would I say it? I do still think there's fitness issues, and I do think the arm is not 100%. Whether it's pain or whether it's just he's not there yet,
Right.
still think that he should be out
Muscle
on
memory.
a fire blade, just baiting around tracks non-stop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That was a great idea.
But look, he obviously does know his body as well. Do you know what I mean? And maybe race fitness is being in the race. I don't like the fact that he toes. That does annoy me.
You know me with towing.
But I think he kicked him a small bit in the balls this week, right? Because I don't know, did you catch this in qualifying? In Q1, he was following Miller. And Miller accepted, right?
Yeah.
But so he had to he got out at Q1 on his own without following someone. And his fastest lap that he did in Q2, he wasn't following anyone either. Because Pecco crashed just in front of him. So he got maybe a quarter of the way around the track, but he had to finish off the rest of it on his own.
Yeah.
And he's saying, oh yeah, it's great, and we need these shiny numbers for Repsol, but he actually doesn't need it. And I think
and it's dangerous. Let's face it, it is dangerous.
It's not. Well, look, it's not that it's dangerous. It just destroys it destroys your legacy. You know what I mean? In my view, as a racer.
Right. Yeah. I raced, by the way. I got the plaque to show it. Daytona. Anyhow. But how many times is Marquez sat by the edge of the track and waiting for guys to pick up?
But sure, you could see it clearly on Saturday in Q1, right? Pecco took off out, and you could see your man baiting out of the garage, like for the boys. Sort the bike into the Joe. I mean, like they were watching for where Pecco was getting up. You know what I mean? They had the tires off. Do you know what I mean?
It looked like they were going to mug him.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? It was just like coming up behind him. It was just like, oh my god! But
I think. And Marquez got pissed off when Oliveira went to toe on him. That's a hypocrisy. He got PO'd because somebody tried to toe on him. I was like, you got a brass set for that. I'm a Marquez fan, but I was just like, come on, you got to be, that ego is too big,
Of course, but like that's just the way riders are. Do you know what I mean? They don't think about the people. Marquez was getting probably pissed off with him because he was a threat. Oliveira was a threat to him because they were a similar pig of a bike, right?
Yeah.
In race conditions, where Pecco doesn't really give a shit because he's like, you're not going to be with me all the time. Do you know what I mean? Now he got a bit of a fright in Australia, but look, there's reasons for that. You know what I mean?
Marquez rides so hard, and he'll try to make spots and bash into people that the riders are leery about being around him. They don't want to get taken out by him.
They're scared of him, and it is that they're scared. Rossi was petrified of him, for fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? And Rossi bumped most people off the foot track that I ever saw ever. Like, do you know what I mean?
You can see it on the last lap. Okay, last lap, almost anything goes. Okay, but not in the start when there's every 18 riders out there, or not when there's just two of them, and they're you can wait till later. You don't have to. You shouldn't have to, especially with his skill set.
He can invent something, all right, in the past. And I think what if there's one thing in this world that really fucking grinds my gears, as what's his name used to say, Peter Griffin.
Homer Simpson. Yeah.
Is it Homer? Oh, anyway.
Yeah, Homer Simpson.
Touching.
No, you're right. Grind my gears. Yeah.
Touching the green paint on the last lap. Really, because I'm just like, come on, you've just done 70 or 80 miles racing each other. You're in the last 2 or 3 miles. You're battling for like, it's not as if there's a difference between 1 or 2 points for the lead and second. Like, there's a 5-point difference. Do you know what I mean? You're battling for a championship, not 5 points. You beat your man five times more. You've a race over him. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like it's a small amount of points. And then you see for that, and like he goes on like 3 millimeters onto the green paint, and it's like, oh, you drop back. You're like, Are you for real, man? Like, now,
do you actually ride?
If he went out and like took a real arcing thing that he didn't have to make it, Joe, he turned like a 90-degree corner and he actually opened it out and went way off out into the paint, and you'd be like, all right, fair enough. Like you definitely gained an advantage there. Do you know what I mean? But like if you touch the paint,
but look at the ego you're dealing with. When they announced that they were going to have the 20 sprint races, remember that they had Espinosa there and a couple of an FIM representative and the riders representative. I think it was Espinosa, or no, it was another guy from Dorna. Says, "Oh, we're trying this out, but just remember, Dorna has never made a mistake in its 28-year history." I thought they were joking, and then I went, "They're not joking." Who goes, "I've never made a mistake in 28 years"? I mean, come on, everybody makes a mistake. But if you're dealing with that kind of ego, once Dorna makes a ruling, they never pull it back.
But that's FIM ruling, though. That rule is
either
FIM.
one of them.
Yeah. I know. Look, I just looking at it, and I was just like going, Jesus Christ Almighty! Like, and then again, like, you know, look at I don't know. Did you see the Navarro incident in Australia, right, where the Moto2 boys were continuing to race while there was a rider down not 4 feet from the edge of the track. And we saw it again today. Like, do you know what I mean? The race continuing. I know it was under yellow flags, but man, Jesus Christ, if someone does come off, you know, it's going to be crazy. And in World Superbikes yesterday, I think it was Mikado came off, and they were still racing as well. And there's one thing about a rider falling off and being in the ground and he's winded. Do you know what I mean? But like if he's on the ground for 3 or 4 minutes, there's something. Do you know what I mean? And you're just like, lads, you need now. I do believe this button that they're putting in is a brilliant idea. That, you know, if enough of the riders press the red button, stop the race. Do you know what I mean? That is coming on. That is coming.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, basically, it just sends a signal to race control. So, if you can imagine, right, the light panels that they're using around the side of the track are from a company called EM Motorsport in the UK, and brilliant group, really, really, really on cutting edge. And I think an awful lot of their products are actually going to become part of MotoGP in the future. So some of the stuff they have in Formula One, so they have the light panels, okay? So the Marshall, I think it's like 18 seconds difference between a Marshall reacting and putting out a flag, than a Marshall reacting and pressing a button. So like, just think of that, like 18 seconds, that's nearly a sector in MotoGP, right? But that signal then is automatically transferred back and recorded in race control. And I don't know if you've ever been into race control, but they have like hundreds of, well, not hundreds, but like they may have 30 or 40 TVs and then one central TV. But they can actually pull that straight into the center. So if I hit the yellow flag, it comes straight onto the screen in race control, and race control have a full view of the incident. Do you know what I mean? Or they can swap over cams. But they also have accelerometers in their ears in Moto or in Formula One. So if they go through and they have a crash, right, and their impact of, to say, the head of the crash or whatever, they can actually probably set it and catch all riders that have concussion.
I remember hearing about that.
But it's all controlled, it's all recorded in the ECU of the bike. Do you know what I mean? So like the riders can say that they didn't know. They could probably record it into their backpacks, right? But like they're going to transfer that technology onto the bikes. So if there's a yellow flag, they'll get a warning on the dashboard, and that comes directly from the lights. So there's no rider able to say that, "Oh, I didn't see the yellow flag," right? It's fucking there, and they're on their dashboard. Secondly, then, if the weather is deteriorating or if there's something happening on the track, riders can choose to press the button, and that will alert race control that there's a problem. And let's just say 50 or 60% of them want to stop the race because of conditions. Right. They can do that. Makes perfect sense.
Right. And then that's a good idea.
And then you can't turn around and say, "Well, I wanted to race." Well, yeah. FIM, no, you pressed the button and you said stop. Do you know what I mean? But look, I think anything like that, I think is a really, really good idea, and it's really effective in maybe taking at time saving the riders from themselves, especially with concussions. Like every rider who fall off the bike, the first question is the bike all right? Do you know what I mean? You're still in the gravel trap trying to get up. Right?
They're expensive, Riders are cheap. Yeah, we can replace them. Yeah, exactly. And they grow back for free.
That's it. Look, there's always someone willing to take the spot, but I just think, Joe, sometimes we need to see them a little bit from Taka going to Japan is a perfect example of it. Like he's missed 3 races now. Do you know what I mean? Because of his hand. I know it's your home Grand Prix, man, but if your hand is fucked, you shouldn't be racing. End of story. Do you know what I mean? So look, for me, I just think anything that we can do to make it that little bit safer. But again, look,
I also believe if the bike goes down, that you can't get back on the track. Like if you can't pick it up and get back on the track. If something's broke, that's it. You're done. None of this walking around with a bent handlebar or that stuff. Like they have a PSP.
Yeah. Here's my take on it, and I would be of similar opinion, right? Except for there's times in the BSB where I've seen a bike literally roll into the gravel trap, and because your man's legs are either too short or he's tried to steady himself in the gravel and his foot rolls out from underneath him and the bike tips over. Right. And at 0 miles an hour, it crashes. Now, how do you distinguish between
that's a tough one?
Do you know what I mean? So there's
that's a toughie.
Now in BSB, there's no gray area because if your bike falls over, end of story. But like, if you were to look at, say, Aleix Espargaro, he fell over that time in Aston at 2 miles an hour. Do you know what I mean? Or Casey Stoner when he fell in Laguna Seca. Do you know what I mean? Again, he fell at a low speed. For me, it's fine to get back on the bike and go. But if you lose the front and the bike goes across the road and then hops into the gravel, while it might appear fine, you don't know the damage that's done to the handlebar. You don't know the damage done to the foot peg. Do you know what I mean? That's when I'm kind of like, okay, that's when that bike needs to stop. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if there's this stupid 2 mile an hour fall over in the gravel and your race has ended, then
with the computers, couldn't you say, make a fine, say, okay, if you make the judgment as a rider to jump back on the bike and keep going, and we review those tapes, and it comes up that something's broken or something,
But Jake, we know it as ourselves as riders, right?
Yeah.
You get on the bike, you can give a fuck whether that handlebar is half on or half off. You just want to get back on that bike.
Yeah, but if you were a rider that was going to get, three positions, the next race, you have to go back 3 positions or 4 positions in the next race. That would bring it to your attention. You say, is it worth it?
But the next racetrack might be a shit racetrack that I always perform shit at, and this one is what I want. Do you know what I mean? Like in the middle of a race, I would never think of my own safety. Do you know what I mean? And look, that's you crash the bike. The first thing you want to do is get up and get back on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And like you always see the marshals fighting with them on the ground. Do you know what I mean? Even like. So there's a fucking wheel hanging off, and your man is trying to get back on the bike, and the marshal's pulling him off, going like, "No, it's damaged," and your man is flicking him off, going, "Fuck off, leave me ride my bike." But so like, I think it's a perfect thing for them to be saved from themselves. Do you know what I mean? The bike has just crashed. They've hopped up the fight or flight mode that we've talked about a few times. Yeah. That's all they're trying to do.
Why we didn't go over yet? Aprilia, because I think they've been getting a bad rap for the last. I think it's just a lull, not because they don't have that's a new bike. They don't have the data that everybody else has. I think You've been killing them on these mixed condition tracks races.
I have a couple of things on it, and like for me, this is Aprilia's first time in MotoGP fighting at the front.
Mm-hmm.
And they just don't have the experience to be very calm under pressure, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And they don't have the data.
As a team, as in like personnel, not bikes, data, or anything. Mm-hmm. In the personnel, they're not used to walking around the paddock, being championship contenders, learning and understanding. Like the rookie mistake that they made with the fuel mapping.
Yeah.
Right? Parts falling off the fucking bike. Do you know what I mean? And then when you have no data, there was no, it seems like there was no experience in that garage to say, okay.
It exacerbates the situation.
Yeah. So like for me, it's a learning exercise that they need to go through. I do think El Capitan or Aleix Espargaro is under a little bit of pressure from Maverick, because Italian teams are very much so favoring who's ever winning or getting the better results most. Yeah. And Maverick has come up with in my view, with a surge lately. And so when they came out and they said about, we're going to develop the bike in 2 different ways for our riders, I was like, okay, is this the actual turning point of that switch? Do you know what I mean? Where they're going to develop it, and whoever's getting the best results.
Oh, they're going to stick with that. They're going to stick with that path. You're saying?
Yeah, and I think that has put Aleix under a lot of pressure, because he was in an unchallenged position for the past years.
Yeah.
Now Maverick has found his way with the bike, and is, in my view, in ways superseding. Now, look, he was fucking dreadful today again. He was back to the old Maverick, right? But in a way,
but he was always looked at as the faster of the 2 riders, if you recall.
He was always looking at the future.
That more raw talent, yeah.
But then he came in and he was a dud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Aleix was beating him. It was Aleix's team. You could see it on that thing, that they were that the team was built around Aleix. But I think, I think Maverick, obviously there's one more race left, but if Maverick even starts out qualifying him or continuing to beat him, El Capitan is one, but Maverick could turn into the Admiral. Do you know what I mean? And that will be the end of the El Capitan. Now, Aprilia have no excuse for this weekend's poor performance, in my view. They have testing data. They know what the bike does around that track. Out of like KTM, Aprilia, they were testing a couple of days beforehand out there. So like, it's not that they have 3 days of testing on the track. They have 6 days of testing on that track.
Oh, really? I didn't know. I didn't remember that.
Because they did the test riders, because they all had concessions at the start of the year. And test riders. Well, I don't think maybe KTM, they might not have it. I'm not sure on KTM, but I do think KTM were testing. But Aprilia were definitely out, where race riders and test riders could do it. But look, I think it's definitely a concern. Like, do you know what I mean? They've fallen apart this season towards the end of the season. And I think Fabio had to come out with a good race today, a solid race. I don't think that the championship went to, or the pressure went to Fabio. I don't think that at all. I think Fabio just became drained. Really drained, and he can't put in performances like he put in, week out. It's just no one can. Like, he's human. He makes mistakes. He gets tired.
I keep telling people, I said, if you're riding 110, 120%, and you have to be perfect at every corner, every straight, every race throughout the whole season, the odds are going to catch up to you. You're throwing dice. You can't keep throwing sevens. Eventually you're going to get snake eyes, and that's what happened. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Fabio was running the new chassis. For speed.
Yeah.
And that's not sorted yet, as you call it. It doesn't seem to be sorted. It allows them to go like 5 kilometers an hour down the straights faster, but it's mid-corner speeds down. I think it's a gain as an average. It's a better package, but it makes it tougher on Fabio. Put it that way. If it's mid-quarter speeds are lacking.
So I play badly MotoGP 2022 with my club on the PlayStation.
Okay.
And my young fella knows that I'm a Yamaha fan. So he was getting the game ready for the two of us to go head-to-head and whatever. And he said to me, Dad, what bike do you want to go on? And he's like, oh, will I get you the Yamaha? And I was like, no, I'll take a Ducati, please. And the simple mentality that I had with it is that I can go faster down the straight with the Ducati than the Yamaha, and it's nearly sorted in the corners. It's just like,
Don't tell me it does that in the MotoGP game.
It goes faster, yeah.
It does. You're kidding me.
Yeah. Now, not in the ones that you play online, because a lot of those ones, the performance is equal. But if you just play it in a standard game, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Huh. Learn something new every day. That's amazing.
Yep. Yeah, but look, I think overall, I think Pecco gave us a good answer today. I think Fabio just reconfirmed, he had 2 fractured fingers, or a fractured finger in his left hand. And I know people are making a big thing about it, but for me, it's not really a big thing. It's your left hand. Do you know what I mean? It hurt when he was doing the clutch. He only was doing that when he started and when he stopped. Joe, I mean, he doesn't use a hand clutch or a hand brake or anything like that. But look, I think it's good that he answered back, and I think look, it's certainly not over. The fat lady has not sunk. She is tuning up. So
Fabio thinks so. You can tell in his voice and his demeanor that he's resigned himself to for all intent and purposes, it's done. You can just see the way he's speaking and the way he's holding himself.
Yeah. Look. All the stars have to align for Pecco not to win the championship, right? And you can absolutely say that. You can absolutely say that Fabio is hoping against hope, but look. He can, he still won't give in. He'll still turn up and he'll still ride his hardest. And that's one of the things that I always credit him for is regardless of the situation, Fucker will try as hard as he can.
He's gonna go give it. He's gonna give it 110% like he always does.
Yeah, but even look at what happened in Thailand, and I question this a lot. If you're riding around in 16th, 17th place, what's the fucking point? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he still finished in the off chance that someone might crash towards the end.
Yeah.
But look, I think Valencia will be good. So I will stream on that, and I will also stream the Monday, or is it Monday or the Tuesday after they're doing the test. So that'll be brilliant now, because we'll have all the new people who are swapping around on their new bikes. Suzuki have released the two boys going to Honda, so they will get their first chance in Honda. Obviously, then Alex Marquez will get his first test on the Ducati. And I'd say I'd love to be inside the helmet of when that happens. You know what I mean? Oh my God, it goes around the corner!
Holy shit! How did this work?
yeah. But no, look, I think it's going to be quite interesting what comes down soon.
By the way, I love the way they say the Marquez brothers are saying, "Oh, we never talk about how the bike works," and that. Come on. The first thing Alex Marquez is going to do is going to walk into Marks and go, "Wow, this thing really works great." What are you doing back in that POS?
Do you know the way that you have to twist the throttle to turn the bike? Well, guess what? When I turn the handlebars, it goes in that direction.
It goes in that direction. Amazing.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You're bait, and I'm not tired at all from riding 20 laps. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, the other thing, last person who I had to talk about today is Miller. I thought he rode a fucking brilliant race.
I didn't even see him, and so I saw your show. I was like, because the announcer said he had a terrible race, right? And I went, I did not realize that he started 18th or 20th. He said something again.
Yeah, so he was like whatever 14th, 15th, but he was actually down to 20th in the first lap.
Yeah. I mean,
so like he passed Maverick and went forward. So like that's the kind of bar that I would be setting for Maverick, right? Do you know what I mean? Like Miller got up into like 6th, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Maverick started way higher and finished 16th or 15th or 17th or whatever it was. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and that's with people crashing out in front of him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like it was a pig of a race, but yeah, look, I think Miller you rode a fantastic race, and fair.
And Maverick's riding a phenomenal bike. Do we really know that the Ducati is better than the Aprilia because of the difference of the rider skills? You know, that Aprilia might be better than we think. You know
it could, yeah. Put Fabio on the Aprilia.
Yeah, well,
fucking go around the corner then, I tell you.
Yeah, you can pretty much count on him winning. I mean, Marquez on a Ducati, he would not. He'd be so shocked and go the wrong direction. He'd be going.
He probably would. Yeah, to be fair, like, you know what I mean, like. And I think
he'd be like, I can just see him going, there's something wrong with this. I turn it, it goes that way. Isn't that?
Yeah. Why don't I have to put in these 40 extra inputs? Like, do you know what I mean? What should right. Turn it and squirt it, and it goes there. And look, I suppose
save it. You know what?
Yeah, and I just think that's just. I think that will happen. I think if Honda don't sort out the bike, and his brother, and I said this in the video ages ago, like if Alex turns around to Mark and says, "Man, I can just turn this bike. Life is so much easier," I wouldn't rule out Mark in Pramac. Like he's going to be like Rossi towards the end of his career. He doesn't really care about the money. It's about championships. And he's going like realistically, if it was about money in, 2014, Rossi would have retired.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He wanted championships, right? Yeah. And if he went to Ducati or Pramac or wherever and said, look, I want to ride a Ducati. My brother says they're fucking brilliant. I'll fight for a championship for you. And, look, his record speaks for itself. He'd say, I want 20 million this if we'll give you 5. And it'd be like, do you want your championship or do you want millions? Yes. And you can guarantee he will take the championship because he's coming into the stage of his career where it's about legacy now. Mm-hmm. It's not about money, it's not about women, it's not about anything. It's just about I'm gonna win.
Again. Go ahead.
So yeah, and look, that's all it's about. He wants to equal or beat Rossi's score, right? I mean, he says he doesn't, but of course he does.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
When I say that Ducati is the worst at picking riders, there's also a caveat to that. They just can't afford it. I mean, Ducati sells 60,000 bikes, and they have a lower budget than all the Japanese manufacturers. They do. They don't spend as much. They might have more bikes out there, which is going to cut down to 4 next year, but they do not spend the money. They have sponsors pay for a lot of their expenses.
Yeah.
So they can't go and say, "Listen, I'm going to spend $20 million." So they're kind of limited. They can't say, "Oh, I want to get Fabio, who got $20 million," or Marquez. They can't get the very best riders. Japanese have been counting on that for a decade. Or over a decade, a little over a decade.
I agree with you in one aspect. I disagree in another, right? Because Ducati are very top-heavy management-wise, right? And I would say the three amigos, so Tardazzi, Chibati, and Gigi. Very little change out of 8 to 10 million from those guys alone. Do you know what I mean? Like Gigi has a blank check. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I do think if they wanted to look at cost savings, they could definitely find a couple of million. No, saying that they will never find 20 million. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say this.
They'll never find that.
Mark. Yeah.
But marking where he is in his career, right? If he's the only one that can make that Honda go, and he realizes that he's not going to win another championship on the Honda, I genuinely do believe he would go to Ducati and he'd say, "Listen, give me 5 million." Do you know what I mean? I want my championship. By the way, though, tell the press you're paying me 20 million.
Yeah. Rossi took half of what they was given at Yamaha. Yep. Ducati was given it. They took half the money. He said it's not about the money. Unfortunately, when he switched over, it was with that carbon fiber chassis, the carbon fiber monocoque chassis, which on paper was phenomenal, but in reality, it was horrible.
Yeah, but it was a fucking pig before he even got on it. Like, do you know what
I mean? That's what I mean.
And Rossi openly admit that it's like the first day in the Valencia test after, like he came back to Burgess, like, and he was like, "Oh shit."
Oh shit.
Oh shit. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
And here's a little bit of MotoGP trivia. All the manufacturers, like Kawasaki, even I think they were maybe the first, Suzuki, Honda, they had all tried this monocoque chassis because on paper it should have leapfrogged over everything, even the ones we have today. All right? But in reality, nobody could figure it out. Ducati's was actually the best of the bunch, and they thought they had the key with carbon fiber. That was going to make theirs work when no one else did, and it just didn't pan out. So they're looking at something saying, this should be the greatest thing since sliced bread. So that's why they held on to it for so long. You're sitting there going, everything should work, but it's not. If we get this, nobody's going to catch us for 5-6 years at least. You know, it's very tempting to do something like that. So they held on to it for way too long. But their engineering department was so strong that, God, what they picked it up in at the end of, say, 2012, which meant nothing. They by 2013, right? By 2013, their bike was as strong, if not the strongest bike out there. Definitely by 2014, right?
No, it was 15, 16 before Davi, and then really kicked in. 16,
right? Yeah, but that isn't that. No, it was before that. It was before that.
Yeah, 2012, 2013, 14. Rossi was there, wasn't he?
He was there 12 and 13.
Was it 12 and 13? 14 in Quebec. They were trying the aluminium frame because it was FTR were making that frame in 2013.
Yes. Yes, so 2013 they were doing it.
Rossi and Burgess were trying to got him away from the monocoque chassis.
Yes.
And they went to FTR to make the frames, which I believe they still do. Actually, I think they're still in partnership with Ducati.
Oh, are they? Okay. Yeah. Now you might remember when you said it afterwards. That chassis just never worked. If you look at the monocoque chassis they had in World Superbike with the 1199, that was a pig. That used to come in under braking. It would just give you a head shake and acceleration. The guy was, Yeah. So now the new one's the semi monocoque chassis, which still isn't as good as the traditional one. So when World Superbike, they kind of need that power to get it. But they've actually found something in World Superbike after the break. It seems to be turning a little better. But we'll get into that next. That's
the next one. Yeah, perfect. Right. Well, look, I think we'll wrap it up there for today. Thank you very much again.
I got two things. One, I want to say a thank you to Motivation Accessories because I had the first SC project exhaust that came into the United States. And I've been getting, parts. My MV Augusta F4 1000 RR, and getting backup parts in case I won't be able to get them later. And I needed a heat shield, so they're going all the way. They got one from Italy because it's a bespoke part, It's not like you can buy one for it because it's a special exhaust. So I want to thank them for that. And like I said, they're very good. They only carry top tier stuff. And second off, I want to ask the members for their opinion, a little help. I'm either gonna get, or maybe both, an MV Augusta Brutale 1000 RR Nuremberg, or a BMW M1. There's a 2023. BMW just came out with a new M1000 RR. All the air. It looks like a MotoGP bike. I might get both, but the members, the guys, what do you like the best? Look it up. You can see which ones you approve of. One's a standard, naked bike. They call them naked bike now. And one's full on MotoGP looking bike. I mean, it looks like it just rolled off the grid. So, and it has that thing. There's new technology where it turns. It's for sliding the back wheel through a corner.
Limited slip angle within the electronics, is it?
Yeah, but it's different. This one's it's attached to the handlebar angle.
All right.
Yeah, look it up. So which ones did I get, guys?
Personally, myself, I would molest the M1's exhaust every day of the week. So that's my one.
You'd what it?
I would molest the exhaust of the M1 every day. Yeah.
Yo, you would lust it. Okay, yeah. I was, you had that Scottish sound for a while. I didn't understand your English.
Yeah.
The exhaust on the M1 looks like, well, it's not very.
It's a sexy look. It's a sexy looking bike. Like, do you know what I mean? You would bring that bike to bed.
Did you see the new M1?
Yes. Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah.
I get the S1, but they don't have the same.
No, you can't.
Bodywork package is the M1. The only thing about the M1, it has, which I don't like, it has 2 ring pistons, combustion chambers, and when you have 2 rings, it's good for racing. It's more efficient, but they burn oil. There's no getting around it. The CBR 1000 RR had 2 ring pistons.
But it's a BMW. Yeah, it's a BMW M1000. RRR.
The RRR is the Honda. That is the 3 R's.
Yeah. Now this one is it is unreal. Although I was looking the other night at the new Ducati Special. So for the World Superbike.
There is, this year they came out with something special. Okay.
Yeah. So she has 240 brake. Sorry, correct myself, because Ducati would shoot me. 240.5 brake horsepower. Now, right, it comes at 217 standard.
Mm-hmm.
You then need to put on the Ekaprovic exhaust, which brings it up to 239, I think.
Yeah.
And then you need to run a special oil as well in it.
Oh, I didn't know that. This is something new. I never heard of this.
To give you the 1.5. Yeah, it's actually in their YouTube video. About the release of it, but they shot it actually in Portimao, but it looks unbelievable as well. But again, saying that, look, for me, it kind of like defeats the purpose, because look, that's like it revs to 15,600.
No, 16,500.
Is it? Did I get it the other way around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you don't screw like that. Or somebody's gonna have a sore ass. But anyhow.
Famous saying in Ireland is any hole is the goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think it's just, I think in a way, look, we'll get into it next week, but I think these special bikes for that class, it should be based off production. Do you know what I mean?
Rich Miner, with all the, you know how much he hates the look of Aero. He's gonna have nightmares when he sees the BMW. You know. With the M1000, they'll be like, throw it away, burn it.
Get rid of it. I look, it's I just saw it in the black version. I was just like, now it's probably a bitch to clean, a bitch to own. But listen, look, it's definitely a nice one. Yeah, I would go with the BMW. MV. I like that. But didn't you say MV is going to be bought by who?
KTM.
Yeah,
that's a great matchup, because they're both top tier companies that make good products. They're both into the steel chassis frame. They're both young companies. You realize that MV is an old name, but they didn't. The company we see now is from 1995. Like when somebody says, "Oh, MVs, they had a bad starter switch or something," I said, "They didn't have bad electrics. It was like they were out for 1 year. What do you expect? You're going to have something or a bad battery cable or something. It's not like their engines are bulletproof. Nobody builds an engine like MV. It takes 12 hours to build an MV engine. They do it like an F1 engine. They actually use cryotech, and they put it like they pull the heads down at minus 240 degrees Celsius. It's some ridiculous figure. That's why it takes them like it's 11 and a half or 12 hours to build the engine. That's probably one of the reasons they're so damn expensive. And everything inside them is forged titanium. They had forged titanium a decade ago. They're just starting it now with BMW, and I think Honda has it. But MV made it ages ago. That's how they kept it competitive with a 20-plus year old engine design. I mean, their engine design is ancient. I mean, how do you get that much power out of it? With something with heavy heads. It's 20 years old. They can't pass emissions. Somebody's full of shit. Somebody's passing the buck to get them to pass emissions. Because I can't believe it. That's no freaking way. Yeah.
Sure. Listen, look, I'm sure that goes on everywhere, but look, listen, look. I suppose we'll wrap it up there. We're just on the hour mark.
Losing you, Bob.
I'm working on the design for the. I'm working for the design for your big pink T-shirt. Saying Mac was right, by the way. Just
right?
That is looming over you.
It takes a tough man to wear a pink shirt. It takes a tough man to wear a pink shirt. Thank God I was a boxer.
But back next week, I'm sure we'll have more shit to talk about. Now the Superbike race is starting shortly, so we will try and do Superbikes in the next podcast. We can mainly talk about that unless something else blows up in MotoGP. Perfect. So that's it from me today. Thanks, Jake, for coming on, and we'll see you.
Take it easy, guys. And remember to tell me which one you like the best. All right?
Yes.
I want your opinion.
Of Jake's.
Yes. Which one should I buy? I might buy them both. Huh?
Radio, go on. We will talk to you probably will. Anyway, cool. We will see you all again next week and have fun.
Take it easy, folks. Stay out of trouble.
Well, we'll try anyway.